Hey everybody, come down to the AMA session voice channel. It's the one just below this one. There you go, now everyone's here.
Okay. I guess we should probably just get into this. So, thanks for coming, everybody. I know it's been a pretty wild day for most everyone. If they've been kind of caught up in this news all day long, and it's been a very active day. Today is going to be quite a bit different than the usual AMAs. I'm not just going to immediately open it up to questions. I think that'd be silly. What I want to do is, of course, take a while. I'm not sure if we're talking 10 minutes or 30 minutes, but take a while and just to explain everything, how things have gone here, especially in the last. Let's take a snapshot of time, kind of leading back even to previous MechCon, and just talk about the last 7, 8, 9 months, and just explain how everything kind of came about, and everything that maybe there's a lot of information that we can share that people aren't aware of. And once I've expressed all that, then of course we will open it up to questions. The questions, I would suggest you don't have pre-prepared questions because those probably won't get answered. In that, if it's something that we talked about, throughout the AMI, or I expressed a whole bunch of things about that and essentially answered it, then I'm not just going to continue to answer those again. I'll look for questions that are obvious reactions to my message, like follow-up questions or things that I wasn't necessarily clear about or things that I missed. Those are probably the best things to answer here today. Okay, so first off, I want to start out by saying that last week when the web guys accidentally put up an updated FAQ, I respond to that by saying that that was, really just the new FAQ for the updated website, and it made no sense to have, stuff about the pre-order and Steam keys and stuff in that. So I want to be clear that that was, a completely truthful statement. I mean, last week at that time, there was no planned announcement date for announcing the Epic Game Store exclusivity. We'll get into the exactly when we signed that a minute ago, but it was signed last week, but we were not prepared, or we had not decided yet with between ourselves and Epic as to when we would be announcing this. But we knew we were going to have a newly updated website, and the team had been working on that for a long time, probably since MechCon, really, and maybe even prior. And they were basically preparing that, and then when they accidentally put it up, it's like, okay, well, it's true. Like, we were about to put up this updated website, and we certainly wouldn't have a bunch of stuff about the pre-order there and still. So that's kind of what that was about. Also, going back to previous to MechCon, we had an AMA here where people asked me if we were going to be an Epic Store exclusive and if we'd been talking to Epic, and I gave truthful answers at the time. And just to go over those, that we had been talking to. I had one conversation with Epic, someone that I'd known for a long time there, and we did have a brief conversation about it. But at the time, it didn't seem like maybe it was going to go anywhere. We talked about, we had our upcoming MechCon, and we at that MechCon we were going to announce our delay, or our new ship date rather, to September. And with that, he asked if we were going to be, shipping on our own portal, and not really knowing a lot about Epic Game Store deals at the time, I was just, answering truthfully, saying, yeah, we will. We're planning on it. In fact, planning on doing this community pre-order in the new year, and we'll sell those, and we'll offer various keys, but we're definitely planning on selling that through our own portal. So I think at the time, the representative from Epic was thinking, well, maybe this isn't really a fit for them, because we kind of had this history of selling things on our own portal, with MechWarrior Online and everything. So I think we both just kind of went our own way and wasn't really sure if that was going to be something that worked out. But I was truthful to you guys during that AMA that I was supportive in many ways of what Epic was doing, like what I knew about it at the time, certainly from a developer's perspective. And I admit that, I mean, that's who I am. I'm a developer, and I've owned this company for 20 years. So I'll admit full-heartedly, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, for me to put myself inside of, just like a pure consumer's shoes. I am what I am. But I was truthful saying that from a developer's perspective, the disrupting of the internet that they were doing was, or not the internet, but of this market, was something that I believed in. That the 12% fee for developers was something that's well, I mean, compare that to the 30, it's really self-explanatory, and it was something that I said, I don't have a problem with it, and just kind of left it at that. So that's where everything was, kind of previous to previous to MechCon, and this particular AMA, I guess, would have been, well, earlier this year when we talked about that, maybe in the first quarter sometime when we had that discussion. So that's where things stood. And it wasn't until sometime in April, maybe near the very end of April, that I got back in touch with the representative from Epic, and we started talking about it again. And I started to learn a lot more about the types of deals that they were offering, and I started to learn a lot more about the Epic Store. And we actually didn't get this deal done with Epic until the last couple of days of April. So we were just ending the community pre-order. It's like, okay, well, this is just coming together. The community pre-order is just finishing. And so instead of launching that updated MechWarrior site, which we'd planned on, we held on to that and said, well, let's hold on to that, and we need to figure out how we're going to announce these things. And so it just came together at the end of April. And then, of course, by the time we got things really settled with them, then it was E3, and Epic had a summer studio closure, and by the time everyone got back around at summer break, and then we were trying to figure out exactly when we do these announcements. So, but I think the most important thing I can possibly say here tonight is, I think there's a lot of misconception out there and a lot of misinformation that going to the Epic Game Store is some type of short-sighted decision, just some sort of like quick, easy money grab type situation that doesn't think of the product or the company or the game in long-term successful ways. I can assure you that is 100% false from my perspective. In fact, after I've talked and learned and researched, and also gotten lots of valuable information, including sales data and whatnot from Epic, I started to realize that this is not a short-sighted decision. Like, this was actually the better decision for the game, for giving it a better chance of being successful, a better chance of being a hit game. And some of those reasons are, first off, discoverability. I really believe in the increased level of exposure and discoverability that the game would get from going to the Epic Game Store. We've been on Steam for a number of years with MWO, and no one at Piranha Games has a problem with the Steam platform. It's a great platform. It's very mature. It's very robust. It's great. And the guys that I know over there, they're awesome. They've treated us really well, and they were even really respectful with the announcement here today and everything. So it's a great platform, and we've been using it. But the discoverability on there is very, very difficult. MechWarrior Online has, you fall off the front page within moments, essentially, and it's really hard, and there's plenty of articles out there now, and kind of a growing sentiment among smaller developers that with 150 games being released a week or something like that, that it's really extremely difficult to know if your game is getting seen by players. So with the Epic Game Store, yeah, the store is much earlier. It's not as well featured, and they're working on it. But a benefit is that there's only about a game a week going onto the store. So someone like us with a game like MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, even with a name like MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, which has a little bit of history to it, is going to disappear off that front page of Steam in no time. But with the Epic Game Store, it's going to sit there front and center for a very long time. I don't know how long exactly, weeks and weeks, perhaps months and months. And we have actual sales data from products that went on there that have actually done better than, say, projected sales had they been on Steam. In fact, some of them have done, far more than previous iterations did on Steam. So the games that are going there are not saying, okay, great, we'll take this support and this money and these deals from Epic, but we're just accepting the fact that the game is going to be less successful. If that was the case, I never would have done the deal with Epic. I firmly believe that my expectation for sales for MechWarrior 5 are to be just as high or higher than if I'd gone on Steam. And if I didn't feel that way, we wouldn't have done the Epic Game Store deal. Now, if you take that, and you can, disagree with me, but that's the way I feel. And that's the way I believe that's true. And then if I move along to the deal terms, then it just becomes so powerful, right? First off, obviously the rate, 12%, and that includes the Unreal Engine. With the Steam, it's obviously 30% plus there's 5% for the engine, for the Unreal Engine. So you're comparing 12% to 35%. That's a third of the deductions. To give you some examples or what that means, if you had a 1 million unit seller, it's going to equate to like an additional $9 million in profits for the studio. And a 750,000 seller in the Epic Store would be the equivalent of a 1 million unit seller on Steam. And so if I still can match the amount of sales like I believe I can, or surpass the unit sales on the Epic Game Store that I'd get on Steam, it's significantly better for us as a studio. And so we can talk about smaller numbers, like what the recoup number is and those things, and we get there sooner. So in a situation where the product is not a big hit, it's much more, it's a lot safer. We get to a recoup point a lot quicker. And even a situation where we have a very successful product, obviously the profits are significantly larger. And remember, I don't expect everyone to care about Piranha Games profits or anything, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been building this company for 20 years. And after 20 years, we have a product like the size and scope of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries that we've been able to self-fund and take to market on our own. We built to this point for 20 years. So this is everything for us. This is our big moment after 20 years. So you can bet we're going to make the decision that says this is going to be more successful. The product is going to sell more. It's going to be bigger if we go to this other store. Then there's other benefits. Piranha Games, self-funding, as I mentioned, and when we announced our release date at MechCon for being a September release, I said a few things at the time, like, unless some big game, I think I used the example of Red Dead Redemption PC, coming out on that day, then we'd probably shift. So like the FAQ said, as we got closer and closer to that ship date, we saw Gears 5 is shipping then. Borderlands 3 was shipping like 3 days later. There was a number of big games coming out, so we were already thinking, all right, we should probably push this a little later into the fall, trying to find a bit of a better hole. So then we're pushing the development time out even further from September. So our small company is becoming, more and more stressed to finish this big game and get it on the market, and to find both, the time and, money and everything to not only finish the game with an even further extended development time, but to try to get all of our localization done and paid for, and all the marketing that we'd like to do for the game. So I would say, we were definitely heading to a point where we would be, hard pressed to just get a good English version game out on the market without very much lead marketing. And so the Epic Game Store deal also allowed us to say, okay, this takes off a lot of pressure. We can push it to our little, favorite early December, honey hole that we've been having the last 4 years. We can comfortably go there. And then that will allow us to not only comfortably develop the game there, but even make additional hires to make sure that we're really coming in hard for that December release. And on top of that, we've absolutely confirmed that we are going to uh, ship the game not only in English, but it's going to come out in German, French, and Russian. So we're committed to that now. That's a confirmation of those other 3 languages. And also, we're committed to a significant marketing effort. So that's something that we're going to be, putting the final touches on a plan now as we move from here on to the release window. Is we feel really great now because we actually have a marketing budget and it's not small. So these things together with the extra development time, the localization of the additional languages, and the marketing, it became really clear that this was the right decision. Like, we had to make this call, and obviously we knew what we'd be getting into. I mean, first off, we'd been making Mech Online for the last 8 years. It's been 7 years since open beta. We've been talking and managing the community, and we've understood moments of community management where we did something crappy or blew it, and we had blow ups, and we had to learn. We had to learn a lot over the years, and so also that in conjunction with listening to what had been happening in the industry with other Epic Game Stores exclusives, we obviously knew what we'd be stepping into, and that would be challenging, and that would be not fun, and we'd rather not have to step into a situation like that. But we're staring at the facts, and the facts tell us we have to be willing to step into this uncomfortable situation because it's the best decision for the game, not just for the studio, but for the game. We firmly believe that the game has a much better chance of being a successful product, both in the quality and in the size of its sales and success rate. So, with that since we knew we were stepping into this kind of situation, we knew that we'd have to. Right away, we decided, okay, we're gonna do full refunds. We're not gonna worry about the MWO content. We're not gonna try to claw anything back there. Sure, you lose the Mw5 key and beta and the Mw5 bits and pieces if you request the refund, but the MWO content, it's yours. So if it was the big package, we had $100 worth of MC and all the other mechs and cockpit items, just like keep that. We really appreciate it. And you guys, when the pre-order happened, you were there, you pre-ordered, you supported us. And yeah, at the time said it was going to be a Steam key. So absolutely, now that it's not a Steam key, you get a refund, no questions asked. Keep the MWO content. And, and if you decide to buy later or something, great. If you don't, that's totally up to you. So there's certainly nothing about this that's like trying to convince you as consumers that you should see it our way or that you should not get a refund or something. By all means, whatever you feel after tonight, if you haven't already, but if you want to after tonight, that's great. That's fine. Of course, we'd rather you keep it. We want you to stay with us. We appreciate you guys' support over all the years. And another thing I should mention is that no, Epic is not paying for the refunds. Someone linked something to me because there was the announcement, I believe, after the Shenmue thing that Epic would pay for the refunds for crowdfunded games, but it's not something I even talked to them about because we're not a crowdfunded game. We've been developing the game for years before we did the pre-order. So no, we're Piranha Games is handling all the refunds ourselves, and all that money is coming out of our pocket to go back to you guys. So, I mean, I never really announced a lot about the pre-order program before. How many units? A lot of people were, curious, and it's not something I probably would have been discussing. But since we're in this moment now, where people are asking for some refunds and such, I think I can give out a little bit of information just to be more transparent about the pre-order itself. So the pre-order did about 20,000 pre-orders. which was pretty great. I mean, comparison-wise to MWO's like Founders Program, which is very different. It's a much more of a, you know, well, it wasn't pre-order. It's very different. But that had done, like, as you guys might remember, in about the same amount of time, it did like over $5 million, about 70,000 ish, I think. Pre-orders, I guess you'd call it, units sold. But that was a very different time, right? That was back in 2012. This was previous to Star Citizen, kind of taking that crown and going crazy with that stuff. And at the time, it was just a very different market, brand new, really, for like this type of pre-orders. And that's changed drastically in the last, 6-7 years. So getting 20,000 pre-orders when we did, we actually felt pretty good about that. Like, that was a pretty strong pre-order. Again, thank you for your support. So far, before I came up to this AMA, we received about 700 requests for refunds that everyone was the customer support was actively working on, actively taking care of them as fast as they can. So it gives you a bit of an idea. 20,000, and so far 700. There'll be more because it's just the first day. So, but our aspirations for the game, we want to sell 1 million units. I mean, past MechWarrior games have. We think if we hit the quality level that we want, that's our goal. And I happen to know what other games have sold and what, say, BattleTech has sold and various things because I have some of that information. So, I mean, I base these hopes on actual things, on actual past sales of MechWarrior games and other products. So I still think that's our goal. That's something we're going to be pushing for. But the bottom line is just shipping a good game. I think we believe in where we're going on the Epic Game Store, both for the deal terms, but also for the discoverability. And I think if we can ship the product at the quality level we want, then we have a good chance at achieving that. So I guess bringing it back around, I don't want to lose sight, as disappointed as some people might be about both having an extra 3 months of delay or that you're not going to be able to play the game on Steam. For us, we have to stay 100% focused on shipping the best game we possibly can. It's the first numbered series MechWarrior game in 17 years, and that's all we can focus on now between here. After today, I'll have another AMA session in the morning, and we'll continue to process any refunds that people want, but we just got to stay focused after that. And we got to stay focused on just shipping a great game. So with that, I think that's about all I had kind of prepared to talk about. We can go to some questions for a while. Maybe we'll take questions for, as long as almost 38 minutes until the hour if we want to go that long. But again, the questions, if it's just simple questions like, why would you do this? That's dumb. Then I've already answered why we did it. So I'd rather the questions be more along the lines of follow-up questions, details that I missed, other things you're wondering about that are pertinent, and I'll try to take as many of those as possible. Just make sure the questions are respectful. I don't want anyone to get tossed or banned when we throw it up for questions. So let's go ahead and do that, Tina.
All right. The channel's open. It is on a 2-minute cooldown, or slow mode, but it's going quickly still.
Raining Fire, with the extra dev time, can we please get multiple HUD design color choice? Sorry, everything's auto scrolling when more questions come in. Raining Fire, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to say that we're going to get that for you. We have been putting some extra development time into a new HUD layout that works better for if you decide to play in third person, which is quite exciting in a single player game. I have to say, when you're running through buildings and everything, it definitely opened up the need to shift some things. And so I've been talking to the guys about maybe putting an option option in the menu so that you can choose that or the classic one. So um, you've been talking about the whole time. I know the HUD and the color choices. I think I brought this up to the guys, and a lot of guys have the opinion that if it's something that's really low hanging fruit like that, there's even a desire to kind of leave it up to the mod community. Um, which kind of reminds me, I should talk about those things. I know there's going to be questions about that for sure, so I'll talk about it when it comes up. But a lot of people feel raining fire that these are the type of things we should leave there as low hanging fruit for the mod community. Okay, I will read this one, Blanca. Thanks for the question. I think it's worded respectfully. It says, "Thank you for explaining your position, Ross. I understand you did it or why you did it, but as a fan and backer, it feels like we're not valued as much as your bottom line. How are you planning on winning back the community? Thanks and good luck with everything." So, thanks for that. And I kind of explained this, but I think I want to make this point again. I like the question, and that is that I think I made it clear that this decision isn't just about the bottom line. It is. We want to be as successful as possible. You guys know we don't own the MechWarrior brand. I hope we get this game out. I hope we can ship some DLC for it. I hope we can maybe even put it on a Xbox console or something. And I hope one day we'll be able to continue to work with the brand. But we don't know if we can, right? So of course we have to be making sure that we're looking at the bottom line while we have it. But as I explained, I truly believe that this is the best choice for the customers because you guys, I mean, last week I got absolutely destroyed on Twitter about the lack of marketing that was going on for Mw5, and all that mattered because everyone was still aware of the September 10th release, of course, and all that mattered to a lot of those people was like they want to see marketing, they want to see the game be successful, they want to see the game get to as many people as possible, and that MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries will be a very successful game because of it, and that will lead to other MechWarrior titles in the future. And people like whether it's Piranha or whether it's Microsoft, something says, "Look at that did really well. Let's make another one." I truly believe going to the Epic Store for all the reasons I cited gives it a better chance to be successful like that. So it's a better chance for there to be future games and that it is the best choice for you, the customers, as well. I mean, putting Steam aside and saying, I only want to play in Steam or I don't want to play in the Epic Game Store, I understand there's a debate there. But for the game itself, as far as having it be successful so there can be future products, I do believe we're making the best choice for that reason. Yeah, there's some long ones there that Tina's dropped out. I think that those. I think I've answered those a couple times. Let's see. Okay, so Tina's check marked that one. I answered that a minute ago. I mean, one thing I've learned over 8 years of doing MechWarrior Online, I can tell you guys a lot of times I can tell the community like the truthful answer, and a lot of times it won't be. It just won't be believed. So I'll read the question and I'll answer it again though. If you're planning on working with Epic since MechCon, why did you lie to us and tell us not to worry? I was not planning on working with Epic since MechCon. Um, I had one conversation with Epic previous to MechCon. I want to say like November. Nothing much came of it. In fact, it kind of felt like it wasn't a fit, and we weren't really going to be doing an Epic deal. And it wasn't until April those conversations picked back up again. That's the truth. Um, Hydraden. Why does this keep scrolling, Tina? Um, it's talking about RTX, I believe, and 2060. So yeah, I mean, I'll give a little bit of information just kind of in general on performance. We're certainly committed to making sure that we have a really well-performing game. Mech Online was always frustrating for us because we can't entirely blame it on CryEngine. Like CryEngine was a very CPU-starved engine, but we also made some choices, I think, with the way that we built our mechs and stuff that we were very CPU intensive as well, kind of almost going against maybe the way we should have gone based on what the engine does well. The HUD was also that way too, using Flash. So our performance was in some ways we were kind of stuck with not being able to get where we wanted to be with performance. So we actually spent several engineers and some other artists spent pretty much a full 2 months working nothing on optimizations. And we still have a ways to go here, so nothing here is final. But I've mentioned in the past I had this Alienware 1070 laptop, and I was like playing the game on that when I was answering people's questions from a while ago on how the game performed. Um, that has a 1070 in it with a good i7 processor. It's a pretty good machine. It's definitely not a low spec machine or anything, but it's certainly not a big desktop with a 2080 either. So it's middle-ish, middle high. Most of the time I'm playing 60 to 80 FPS on that thing with everything on max settings. So take that for what you will. There's still ways to go here, of course. And I think in our optimization, we went a little over aggressive on a few things with the dial back a bit, but then there's other areas we can still go back to and get more out of. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good about performance of the game. We just hired a brand new lighting artist a month or so ago, maybe not quite that long ago. Going to really focus on lighting across the whole game, as well as make sure that we're in good shape for like the RTX stuff. Certainly the RTX, we're mostly committed to the hangar, making the hangar like a really incredible RTX experience if you happen to have one of those cards. So that's still the plan. So yeah, things are looking good. Performance is looking good. Okay, so when Metro Exodus went Epic exclusive, those who had pre-ordered were still given a Steam key. Is PG honoring this community support by delivering the Steam keys as promised in FAQ at the time of purchase? If not, explain why. So we're not able to because something changed. There's quite a bit of difference between us and the Metro Exodus situation. Number one, when Metro Exodus did that, they were actually doing pre-orders on Steam, um, like actually selling them right on Steam. And also, besides that, since that game came out, Steam or Valve Steam had changed their policy to say if it's not actively for sale on Steam, then you can't put people on Steam. So that's things have changed since then, and it's just not possible. It's not allowed by Steam. So no, we're not able to give you a Steam key. You get an Epic key instead, or you can ask for a refund. I did get a couple interesting comments from a few people saying, "What if I just chill out for a year? Then can I get the Steam key?" And honestly, I hadn't even thought of that. I didn't think anyone would be thinking they'd do that. So I don't even know if that's possible. I could talk to the team and the guys at Epic or something to see if that's something that we can, if that's worth doing that. It's so far out, I'd almost just suggest get a refund. And if that's the way you feel, get a refund. And then when the game comes out on Steam, you can buy it then. And that'd be great. But that's all I can say about that for now. Okay, so co-op questions, good question. I did state that it was going to work the same way as we previously communicated, that you basically use the Steam friends list to just invite your friends into a co-op match. So the person who does the inviting is the host. So that's the way it works. So we use the Epic friends list the same way that we would have used Steam friends list. So when the year is up and we do go to other platforms like Steam or maybe GOG or these other platforms, then it would work in the same way. It would be you'd use the Steam friends list or the GOG friends list. So question about crossplay comes up. I can't promise crossplay support. That's something we'd certainly look at. It's becoming more and more popular, and it's something that even Epic is very supportive of when you are on multiple platforms. So I don't know about crossplay for sure, but when the time comes, it goes on the other platforms. You would use the friends list of that platform. Uh, Draggle Dawn. I think first and foremost, can we get a breakdown about how this recent announcement will change what content we own now? Well, I mean, I think that's all clear in the FAQ, isn't it? If you choose to keep your pre-order, then you get everything that you pre-ordered. I mean, the only difference is you get a Epic key instead of a Steam key, but you get the same DLC and the same content and the same closed beta access and everything that you would have got with Steam. And if you do get a refund, then you lose the Mw5 content, like we said, but you get to keep all the MechWarrior Online content. So I think that answers that. Army of One. There's an old name from way back. Recognize it from days of MWO. Saddened by the news, but I understand the business decision. I was going to ask about how a single platform release increases discoveries and multi-platform release, but you explained your position in this. Okay. My question is, how would you determine the potential sales loss or gain from EGS versus Steam or GOG versus sales over all three platforms concurrently? And he appreciates the full refunds. You're welcome. I mean, we've tried to be really generous in that way for quite a while now, both when we did the pre-order and what you got, and in turn here what you get when if you ask for a refund. Yeah, I mean it's a really good question. Obviously, if I'm not selling the game on Steam and GOG, there's no way for me to, you know, to just try to guess at what I would have sold on those platforms. All I can go by is how other games have been performing on the Epic Game Store over the last 6 months, what those games did on previous iterations on Steam, what other games that are similar to those games are doing on Steam, and also the Epic Game exclusives that are hitting the Epic Game Store between now and when MechWarrior is going to release. Games like Borderlands 3, which should certainly bring a significant amount of more players to the Epic Game Store. So I like the question. I think it's determined mostly just by on looking at how well games have been performing on the Epic Game Store. You can look at a game and say, oh wow, Metro Exodus sold as many as the last two Metro games did combined on Steam. So that's not a perfect thing to look at, because maybe Metro Exodus is a lot better than those previous games, but it does show that they're performing exceptionally well. I think the DayZ it sold, what was the announcement? It was like 250,000 copies in like the first like week or something. So those are excellent sales numbers. I mean, those are Steam level sales numbers.
I think you meant Days Gone.
Sorry, Matt, was that you?
Yeah, that was me. Days Gone, I think you meant, not Daisy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. I have to look at the store again, but maybe I missed. Once a peer-to-peer connection is established for co-op, do we still need to be logged into Epic to maintain that connection? That's a great question. I'm going to need to get a follow-up on that, and maybe we can put that in here for you guys. I want to say I don't think so, but I could be way wrong on that, because it would. I mean, if you look at MechCon, we weren't on any platform, right? I mean, it was just old school, like connecting via LAN, and that's totally possible with this game. Like, in fact, I don't think anyone, Prana or Epic, would care, to be honest, about this. That Nima, internal engineer, was even saying that you could probably there's some people out there that have enough kind of old school smarts around like LAN systems and stuff that if they know the IP address of their friends and stuff, they can probably connect with each other over the internet using nothing but like weird little batch files and stuff like that. So, I mean, first off, it's a single player game. So if you buy the game through the Epic Game Store and download it, once it's downloaded, you can shut down the Epic Game Store and like double click on the executable. Just play the game. There's no always online connectivity needed or anything like that. And then for co-op, you'd use your friends list to connect with each other. But I need to get some follow up on this. But I don't think there's anything stopping people from connecting kind of like old school LAN style with their friends, to be honest. So those are great questions, and it brings up some really interesting thoughts that I hadn't had in a while, and not since like MechCon. So that's cool, and we should get some follow up information on that. Once it settles and we ship Mech 5, would we be interested in collaborating with Microsoft to release the old MechWarrior, Mech Commander games? Let's see, what's the rest of it? Yeah, I have talked to the guys at GOG about that. I know that there's super tons of interest in those old games. First off, you guys know how much I love the brand. Truly, like I'm not a lot of people. I got lots of tweets today, just like basically, why would you bury the brand and kill it and stuff. Like, honestly, I feel like I'm doing the opposite, and I don't need to go over that again. I feel like I'm doing the opposite of that, but I'd love to continue to work with it. I think you guys know that. I don't know if that'd be the case or not, and I think with the older games, it's complicated because 1 and all the 2s were Activision. I think those are like just not going to happen. Like it would take like a 3-way conversation between like Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft, and like someone like us to do it or whatever. I think that's unlikely. I think 3 and 4 though Microsoft developed, and I'm not sure about the Mech Manners. It's were they just publisher of the second one? So it gets complicated. So I think it's probably a little low on the likelihood scale, but yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be interested. Oh, since it's been pushed back again, can we ship a demo or something? Been waiting a long time. I know. I mean, trust me on this. We've been developing the game. By the time this ships, we've been working on it for 4 years. That's insane. And it hasn't been the full team the whole time, of course. It started out with a very small team in early 2016. But in that year, maybe it was 12 to 15 to get that initial MechCon announcement out. And then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger and just like full team for the last couple of years. But when it ships, I'm going to average it all out, but it's definitely a big development cycle. It's probably at least 2.5 to 3 years with a full-fledged team on it. So no, but I think we got to stay focused. We got to ship a great game. So November 5th is as soon as I can get something into your hands. That'll be pretty much an instant action, as I've described a few times before. Because of reviewers and everything, it's not going to be you're not going to be playing the campaign, but the instant action manager is pretty rad. I'll tell you, I have a lot of fun. I played missions for 20 minutes, and it's really turning into a really unique and special experience. And I think that there's significant amount of people out there that are just going to say, yeah, the campaign was cool, but they're going to find hundreds of hours of enjoyment of just playing the instant action manager with their buddies. So I'm saying that the closed beta will be very focused, small and focused on the instant action manager, but there's still going to be a lot there for you to play. I'm going to skip over the long one real quick, not because it's bad. I just saw this short one here. Because why did you decide to split the customer base by going exclusive instead of releasing on all platforms? Well, I've explained the reasons for going to the Epic Game Store, so I'm not going to say those again, but it wasn't an option, just so everyone knows. Maybe not everyone knows out there that it's not an option at the moment to do, say, Steam and the Epic Store. The types of deals that Epic's doing are exclusives, and I understand why they're doing it, because they're really disrupting things at the moment. I mean, it's 30% versus 12, and Steam is extremely well established, so it's not. And I'll let them answer for themselves. I'm not here to answer a lot of Epic questions and things. They've explained these things. I think you can go out there and find all this stuff, but it's not possible for me to have released it on both platforms. Yeah, the long one there, honestly, I think we've answered that stuff. It's a lot of stuff in there about, why would we change our mind? Why would we do this? But I think I've answered those best I can. I think, David, we've answered this. Like, EGS requires constant internet connection. Will Micro5 be subject to the same rule? I don't think so. It's in the FAQ that was viewed by Epic as well and approved by them. Like, it clearly says in there that once it's downloaded, you don't need a connection anymore. It's a single player game. You wouldn't need to be connected. Co-op obviously is different if you're connecting via your friends list on the Epic Game Store, but potentially there's ways around that as well. You need to have the internet, of course, to play co-op, but we're not using any matchmaking service from the Epic Game Store. We're just using an invite system. And the invite system essentially just, for our game, because it's simple peer-to-peer connection, just says, here's this guy's IP, right? And it gives a little bit of information to connect them. So there's very little internet need, for Mw5. Epic Store does not support gifting. Yeah, there's a lot of features they don't have yet. And they have a roadmap, and their roadmap can slip. I understand that. So I can't speak to bunches and bunches of features, but there was of specific features that we needed for our game, and that is, of course, the friends list for the invite system for co-op. We needed the ability to provide the DLC content to our players who did the pre-order, and we needed the ability for us to have a closed beta. And we also needed the ability, what was I going to say? Oh, for players to mod. So we had that conversation with them really specifically about those features. And we came to a place where we realized that we would have the functionality we needed to ship the game and to deliver that functionality to our players. So modding, I guess I'll jump on that right now. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different than we were on the Steam, and meaning that we don't have something like Steamworks day one, but we will have modding. And the way this is going to work is we're going to release the editor, when the game releases. So all the guys that are planning on making mods that really know what they're doing, like the developer type guys, they're going to grab the editor, they're going to grab all the content they need, and they're going to be able to get started right away. There's really no hang up for them. That's kind of how it would be for them anyhow. They're out there making mods. So it's the actual end user aspect of mod creation where you actually share your mods with more just players, guys that don't know how to make mods, but they want to play them. That part is where we integrate basically Epic's version of Steamworks that's coming online, and it's really close. I'm just gonna their roadmap says what it says, but it was right in and around the end of the year, like right in and around our ship date. So we're just playing it conservative and saying, well, maybe it's going to be a little bit into the new year. So in very early 2020, it seems to be a kind of our safe estimate, and that if that happens, then it just gives our mod makers like a little bit of time, maybe a couple months to get some sweet mods up and running. And of course, there'll be ways on the internet to share those with each other. It's just not as user friendly, but once that system's integrated, then you'll have the kind of ease of just like downloading mods and stuff like that. Rabbit Foe, I think I answered that. It might be a ridiculously smaller penetration like the Epic Game Store, but I mean, I don't want to get into a big Steam Epic debate here, but there might be, I don't even know how many millions of people on Steam right now, but it's busy over there. It's cluttered over there. It's difficult to get seen over there. So there could be 7 billion people on the Steam store, but if they can't see your game, it really doesn't matter. So I think that the amount of eyeballs on our game from PC gamers that want to play a game like MechWarrior 5 is actually bigger and greater on the Epic Game Store. That's what I feel. That's why we made the decision. People can disagree, and we'll see. History's going to say if I'm right or wrong. But I've chosen to believe in that, and I think that's the way it's going to go. Okay, answer the mod support one. I actually am going to answer this not so Deadpool thing that Tina's got the exclamation mark there for. It says, was it that bad for the company financially that this move was required? No, it really wasn't. And in fact, there was an article from Sarna, last week, the one that was, guesstimating that we were going to go to the Epic Game Store. And obviously they were right. And there was nothing wrong with the article except one thing that kind of said like something on the lines of, we already know that Piranha was in like super dire financial straits because they stopped making mech packs. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? I mean, people stop shipping product or making product and developing product and shipping it, not because they can't afford to make it, but because if the products they're putting on the market no longer make enough money to justify their development, and there's no return on the investment. And sometimes you can we kind of said, well, we're going to continue to do this for a while, even though it didn't really make a lot of sense ROI wise, just to kind of continue to support, MechWarrior Online and build it up and, just invest. But there comes a point where you're saying, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. Plus we need resources on MechWarrior 5, so let's not make any more bad decisions about, stuff that isn't making any money, and let's make sure that we put resources on MechWarrior 5 to get the game done, make it a great game. So it really doesn't, because the fact that we stopped making mech packs for MWO has really nothing to do with the finances of the company. So I let on a little bit. Like we weren't just swimming. We weren't just be like, oh, this is great. You know what? In fact, it's busy around September. Let's just push it to later. And no, I mean, it was like, well, geez, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to like put tons of money into marketing right now. But things weren't not like desperately out there looking for money or anything. So the reason we took the Epic Game Store deal was for the reasons I've already stated, because I think it's the best thing for the game. And the deal terms of the Epic deal really help. Like in the way that I expressed already. It makes it clear. It says, okay, great, let's push it to December. Let's make a great game. You know what? Let's hire a new narrative designer to make sure this story is super tight. Let's get a new lighting artist. Let's get another level designer. Make sure our campaign missions are awesome. These are all things we did. And then we said, let's lock in, French, German, and Russian. Let's make sure we're committed on a legitimate, marketing campaign. So it helped a lot. But it wasn't like we didn't make certain decisions for financial reasons either. Do you know that Borderlands 3 is releasing 3 days after Mw5 5, and it will be a much bigger release outshadowing Mw5 5? I do know that. That's why we pushed the release date to December 10th. And yeah, I'm very excited about Borderlands 3. I think it's a great game. Definitely when I saw it, it's like, oh my God, 3 days after us. I played Borderlands 1 a ton. I didn't get to play Borderlands 2, but actually Piranha worked on Borderlands 2, and we were working with Gearbox in the day. Just a little bit of artwork, nothing big. Big game. Really excited about it. Absolutely, it's going to be huge. Big reason why we were, before the Epic Game Store deal was even done, or like before we were even talking about it, we were like already considering like, okay, we have to push a little later into the fall. Uncle Toddy, the one and only question that matters, why should we not refund? Well, I feel like I've stated that, but I'll repeat a little bit. I think it's the best. It's going to get you. I mean, whether you refund or not, I suppose this is going to happen because we're committed and we're going down this path. But the reason that we made the deal was so that we could make the best MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries game possible, localize it to get it in as many people's hands as possible, market it with significant marketing dollars, all in all to just ship the best MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries game we possibly could. And even though we knew we'd be stepping into the furnace and dealing with a very uncomfortable situation around Epic Game Store exclusivity, we still made that choice because it was the best choice for both the company and the game. And that's just sometimes, I think that's our reputation at Piranha. Like, we haven't done everything right. We've made some blunders, but we'll always make a decision that's best for the game and the studio, no matter, what we think if we're gonna stir up trouble or not. We don't like it. I don't want it, but it was the right call for the game. So you can take that explanation and agree with it or not agree with it. And I guess that'd be the reason why you wouldn't get a refund, is because you'd say, if you believe me at all, you said they made the right call for the game, no matter the hard decision that it was. Knight Captain Andrew, why is December more attractive in that regard? Well, when we chose September, I thought maybe it'd be a lot less busy. Last year, it seemed to be. There was like a Tomb Raider game around the 17th of September, and there were some other ones. You go back and look. But from a PC game perspective, it looked to me like maybe early September would be a pretty sweet spot to land, right after like PAX West and stuff. And this year, it just so happened that some games that are pretty big in the PC world, like Borderlands 3, and then also even, although Gears 5 is primarily console, there were some games that were just right there, right in our little spot. We thought maybe it would be a little clearer. So I think early December traditionally has been, there's always been some games, like you see Smash Bros from Nintendo and stuff like that. So there's going to be some, but I think also we've kind of identified where all the big games are going now, right? This fall, like we know where Gears is, we know where Borderlands 3 is, we know where all the the general Call of Duties and various things, and we know where the new Star Wars game is coming out November 15th. There could be some more announcements and some more things come to light, but at this point we kind of know where everything's landing, and so our little early December honey holes, turns out to be our best spot. Has our pre-order information, login data, and user information already been shared with Epic? No, it has not. No one has requested it. I'm sure no one will request it. Like, Epic doesn't care about your data. We have it, along with MechWarrior Online, and all they care about is we will we'll get keys from them just like we would have got keys from Steam, and we will send you those keys through your profile, just like we would have anyhow. I don't see a situation where we'd ever have to share that information because we'll just send you the key, and then you'll go to Epic Game Store if you choose to keep it. Of course, I'm saying, then of course you'll sign up with Epic, but then you'll be signing up, and they'll have that data, of course, but they won't have the data you use on the Mw5 website. That's different. I mentioned mod support there. There will be the mod support at launch. There'll be the editor and everything. People be working away. The very user friendly aspects will be lagging just a little bit.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you cut out. Sorry.
Oh, I think I was done that question. Maybe I didn't sound like it, and I started reading other questions.
Um,
I'm going to answer this. Zentiz. So everything you did was just to make better sales and make more money for yourselves. That's all I've heard this whole time. Without caring about your consumers, you won't make a lot of sales. Is that really what you got from everything I've said since it started, Zentiz? Because that's not what I said. I feel like I said a lot of things that were very different. Is the exclusivity worth the tremendous and justified amount of? It would still matter to me. But we're trying to sell 1 million units here, right? And there's 20,000 pre-order customers that are very important to us, and 700 of them asked for refunds. And why not GOG? Well, I mean, it's a 12-month exclusive. So let's put that out there. I had one piece of advice from someone that we should be hello?
hey, Russ. I think there's connection issues. It's
Tina,
not
you still
going.
there?
Yeah.
How about now? Is this fine now?
Yeah. I don't know. The voice connection is. Can you guys hear?
Can you hear me, Tina?
Yeah, no, I can't. I changed the server location to see if that fixes it. The server location that we were on seems to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it was. I kept like trying to. I had this router which is like normal, and then like the 5.0 one or whatever, and I was like screwing around thinking it was me, but I think
Oh,
it
no,
wasn't
no.
me.
Yeah, no, everybody was getting kicked out of voice, or just the connection was. It was just the location that we had this Discord channel set up to. But I changed it to US Central, and this seems pretty stable so far.
Okay, so let's take a few more just because we kind of blew a few minutes there.
Right.
Okay, I don't know. I don't even know where I was. I'm just gonna. Where are we? God, there's so many. Show up again in the morning if you feel like you really had a question that needed to get answered. We're not going to get to anywhere close to all these, obviously.
You can just talk
Like
through
maybe
it.
because we disconnected, none of the little symbols are there anymore. I don't
Oh,
see.
no, there should be. If you,
Okay.
it's probably just at the very top. There's a lot.
Any odds of the beta being longer than just a month? Ooh, honestly, I'm not sure if it'll be a full month. I thought the FAQ said something a little shorter than that. I don't know how long it's going to be, but a month would be pretty much definitely the longest it would be, because November 5th, that basically takes you to the launch date. So more information we get. Any word in MechCon this year happening or not? Boy, let's save that for another thing. It's a bit of a topic, but yeah, I don't want to take up the time on this right now for MechCon. Let's see. Do you anticipate adding other add-on skins, etc., to the Epic Store? Well, I kind of anticipate that. There's nothing planned yet, but eventually they're going to do the pre-order there and stuff, and obviously then sell the game. And I don't know. I guess it'd be nice to come up with something, right? So at this point, we don't know yet, but it's something we'd like to do. Pre-orders were not accepted past April. Actually, they ended April 30th. So Prana did. Yeah, I actually said that. I think it was like maybe 3 days crossover when the Epic deal was kind of known and the pre-orders were still happening. So when there's 3 days left, you just close it out. You don't throw a hand grenade at it, because you have to be ready to announce these things. This isn't just up to us at that point. So there was a couple days crossover. Do you think you can get people to migrate the population base of Steam? I would only download Epic for MechWarrior 5. Well, thank you for that, for saying you do it for MechWarrior 5. I'm not sure we need to get any population to really migrate. We just need to get a lot of people to agree to play MechWarrior 5 and to come buy the game. I don't know about the migrating thing. They'll play them both. I wonder if MechWarrior 5 is still being worked on. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, no, it's definitely being worked on. Will development and work still being done on MechWarrior 5 gameplay-wise throughout the pushback release date? Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're going to be taking advantage of every last second of the extra time. We're going to be, putting loads and loads of every last second into the development of MechWarrior. I've already answered that. And why, if I think it's so great, why don't I release it on all of them? Well, it's not possible for us. I mean, Epic does the exclusivity deals, so we can't go on GOG or Steam for 12. Do you have any plans to compensate those of us that don't refund our key with additional content? Not at the moment. We did talk about some extra incentive to keep your pre-order and not do a refund, but it was actually going to be MWO content. I wouldn't rule that out 100%. If there was something, it would be MWO content, though. Just because the difficulty in putting it in MechWarrior 5 at this point would be too risky for the game. But MWO content, we can handle that on our own easily. Yeah, there will be other AMAs. I'm going to have the one tomorrow about this. We'll put this subject to bed, but then we'll still have we'll definitely still do some mod AMAs here down the stretch. So it might be a couple months, but we'll be in touch. Our goal is to still try to do one every month throughout the end. So, Tina, I could go on and on. There's so many questions. Guys, I know a lot of you are frustrated. Some of you were saying, that's it, I got a refund, and that's too bad. Thank you for the pre-order at the time, though. I appreciate it. And, maybe we'll see you down the line. Those of you that are sticking with us, know that we love it, and we appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. If you have questions that you still want to try to get answered, I'll try to answer different ones tomorrow so we can get through more. But thanks for this evening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. PDT. All right, those of you can make